Segment Sheva, Nikud Shtaim, Nikud Aleph. Ve'et avadav tziva la'avod bachutz. Ve'et avadav tziva la'avod bachutz. This segment will show you how to include a contrasting statement or entity within the flow of your story. It's not uncommon in the course of telling a story that you'll find it necessary to introduce a new entity or to contrast a certain action. Hebrew has some techniques to mark out an entity or an action as forming a contrast with what has preceded. Let's consider first of all how to introduce a new entity. In order to contrast a new entity, call attention to it by placing it ahead of the verb in its clause. So we find in the Jonah story that the narrator wished to contrast the lounging prince, first entity, over against the prince's hard-working servants, the second entity. This was accomplished by placing mention of the servants prior to the verb in their clause. So we find the statement, Ve'et avadav. There is the fronting of the servants, which form an object in this clause. Ve'et avadav tziva la'avod bachutz. Translated following the Hebrew word order, but his servants he had ordered to work outside. If instead of an entity, it is rather an action which you wish to highlight, Hebrew will accomplish this using a vayiktol to signal this particular focus. This will be illustrated by a new line in the Sarah ve'Avraham story. It will be part number Shtaim Nikud Arba. Notice in particular how the expression va'techeta, which means but she missed, will capture this new and unexpected element of the story. We'll need a new bit of vocabulary in order to tell this portion of the story. It's a portion of vocabulary that you will want to memorize. Milim la'anot, va'techeta, va'techeta. Here then is our Sarah ve'Avraham story. The first two lines are familiar. The third line will be new. Shtaim nikud shtaim. Velo yada ki amra lo. Velo ana davar. Shtaim nikud shalosh. Vehi hishlicha even al hakli. Shtaim nikud arba. Vatecheta vatach haeven et rosho. Vatecheta vatach haeven et rosho. Please notice that within the flow of this story, when we come to the expression vatecheta, it follows the expression hishlicha, and due to the nature of the meaning, it forms a contrast with it. There's the throwing, but unfortunately, she missed, or it missed. Once again, in order to present contrasting sequential action, Hebrew will use the vayiktol. You may be saying to yourself, how do I know if it's contrasting or not, since simple sequential action is also expressed by vayiktol? It's up to the reader to interpret whether the new action forms a contrast with preceding actions in sequence, or simply follows along in the same flow.